Welcome back. I'm still Rob White, and I'm still the Director of Parent and Family Programs. And I'm delighted to introduce you to the wide world of Williams beyond the classroom. Former President Morty Shapiro used to begin conversations like this by saying, we on the faculty believe that 90% of what happens at Williams happens in the classroom, when in fact, an enormous amount of it happens out of the classroom. And some of it's spontaneous, and some of it happens late night in conversations in the dorms and around campus, but a lot of it is actually intentional, and it is managed and curated by people like the ones that we have on the panel here this afternoon. To my left is Don Kjelleren, Director of the Career Center. To Don's left is Jennifer Chuks, Assistant Professor of Physical Education and Assistant Director of StudentAthlete Services. And to Jen's left is Angela Wu, Assistant Director of the Davis Center. To Angela's left is Mike Evans, Assistant Director of the Zilkha Center for Environmental Initiatives. And last but not least, to Mike's left is Paula Consolini, Director of the Center for Learning in Action. Each of my colleagues will briefly summarize the scope of their respective programs, and we'll leave lots of time for your questions, so please join me in welcoming our panelists.
Well, thanks so much, Rob, and it's great being here. Just quickly, a show of hands, how many are first-year parents? Just so we know who. So it looks like the majority of you. Okay, well, we'll address our comments appropriately. Thanks for spending some time with us this afternoon. Obviously, we feel very passionate about what goes on both in the classroom and outside of the classroom. As the fairly new director of the Career Center, I'm interested even in what happens after graduation, so I take the long view, and I'm going to share a couple ideas with you right now, and certainly open to your questions afterwards. So first of all, we're really excited about working with your daughters and sons. I call it the After College Project. We want every Williams graduate to really leave here with a plan and the tools to activate it when they are ready to do so. We want them to engage us early and often. How early? Literally the moment of matriculation. So as of yesterday, we have met with or spoken with 79.5% of the first-year students. So really exciting new development here at Williams. So in those conversations, we get them thinking about a four-year plan. A four-year plan which ends with them as a senior, having, again, those tools, having gone through a preparation process, having done some internships, having really tested and explored some ideas of things they'd like to do after graduation. I'm also big on intentionality, so I want students to have the time and space to, again, go out and explore these things, whether it's winter study, summer internship, service, volunteer, things they're doing in athletics and in other areas. Students are going to have an amazing array here to test out ideas, so that's just super exciting for them, and we work very closely with them. So the next thing we did is we divided the universe into 5 industry verticals. We wanted it to be really clear for students to have, these are the known paths, and it's not just about finance and pre-med anymore, it's about arts and communications, it's about business, it's about careers with social impact, it's about education, and it's about STEM/health professions. So what we've done is we put a professional advisor in each of these career communities, and we're currently, over probably the next 2 years, building out a co-curriculum. So the curriculum might be something, for example, alumni and parents who come back to campus to speak, and I would certainly invite those of you who might be interested in doing that. We also bring students out on city trips. We just did one down to Washington, for example. Senator Chris Murphy and Congressman Don Beyer hosted a group of 28 Williams students. Very exciting. We have customized resumes, cover letters, practice interviews. In fact, we just made a technology bet on InterviewStream, which is an interview simulation algorithm, which is pretty cool in terms of our students getting more prepared for their upcoming interviews. So each student has the opportunity to work closely with a career coach. We encourage them to sample multiple of these industry verticals. And for first-year students, we assume they don't know what they want to do yet. And we have a counselor dedicated towards working primarily with first-year students, but more broadly with any student who's in that undecided category. This is the liberal arts. We want students, again, to try a variety of things. So I think the final comment I'll make is we're going through a fairly large rebranding process right now and really trying to push information out to our various stakeholders, and I certainly include parents in those. So a couple things you can do to help. One, if you are aware of internships at your organizations, we would love to know about that. Same thing with jobs. If you would like to post those on Route 2, we have about 2,500 opportunities that we present to students over the course of an academic year. 50% of those are parent and alumni provided. So again, we're always looking for great opportunities that are liberal arts appropriate. Secondly, if you would like to come back and speak, which I mentioned before, please reach out to me and you can find me through the Career Center website. If you have an industry expertise or an area that you think would be valuable for our students to know about, again, with that career lens to it, love to hear from you. And then finally, if you'd like to know what's going on, we just launched our new newsletter this past week, and you can subscribe if you would like to. So every month, you would get an update on what's going on with the Career Center. And to do this, you merely go to the Career Center's homepage. On the right-hand corner, you will see subscribe, and we'd be delighted to send that off to you monthly. So again, thank you so much. We love working with your daughters and sons, and we look forward to hearing from you.
Awesome. I'm Jennifer. I work in the athletics department, focusing on StudentAthlete Services. Just to give you a quick background of what we do and what athletics looks like, we have 32 varsity teams and probably more than 700 student athletes, which is about 40% of our population. And we have 27 head coaches, and we compete on the Division III national NCAA level. And we are in the New England Small College Athletic Conference. So my main responsibilities as StudentAthlete Services is really focusing on developing our student athletes within their teams and within the broader community. And so we are trying to focus on developing them personally, focusing on self-awareness, emotional intelligence, and being a part of the community at large and being a part of community service initiatives. We try to basically tackle each year. So for our first years, we have a program called Team ETH, which is a first-year fall orientation program for fall student athletes. Without Team ETH, our student athletes wouldn't get any type of orientation. They would either be on their teams, competing and practicing the entire time. So with Team ETH, we're able to provide a setting where they can meet people outside of their teams for 4 days, 4-night activities, and really be a part of the community at large. And then our second initiative is for sophomores. It's our Emerging Leaders program, and that is run during winter study in January. And it's a weekly program, just 4 nights actually, and we really just focus on identifying the leaders that may need more leadership role, more of a leadership role on their team, and then also having our coaches identify maybe their future leaders on the team as well. And in this program, we kind of collaborated with the Career Center and having them come in and do the Myers-Briggs personality test for us last year. The second week, we focused on developing their core values and kind of identifying what their personal brand is. And the third week, we focused on emotional intelligence. And then last week, we brought in a speaker from University of North Carolina. We don't really focus on juniors that much because juniors are either abroad or they're junior advisors. And then we kind of skip over to captains and provide a 2-day workshop for them. With our captains workshop, we really try to focus on making sure that they develop a network within each other, and that we are able to provide scenarios and examples of what they'll be prepared, so that they're prepared for anything that comes their way as a captain. Before, we used to kind of just throw them into their captaincy and be like, hey, you're a captain, you know what to do. But now we're kind of dialing that back a little bit and kind of giving them the tools necessary to succeed as captains during the year. And we also bring in our coaches to talk about what their expectations of their captains are for the year. Last but not least, we have a program called Student Athlete Advisory Committee, which is SAC, and that does a lot of community service initiatives, which is with CLIA and also with the Zilkha Center too. And just really, that's our only year-long program where we focus on community service, mental health awareness with our student athletes that are facing season-ending injuries or career-ending injuries, or even the sexual assault awareness prevention campaign that we did last year that we're hoping to continue this year as well. So we do a lot of stuff outside of the court or the field, but we're really trying to focus on, again, developing our student athletes in their teams and within the larger community as well. So looking forward to any questions afterwards.
So hello, my name is Angela Wu. I'm Assistant Director at the Davis Center, which is, we think of as our Center for Identity, Diversity, Inclusion, and Equity, and Social Justice. We do a lot of programming on campus, including the Social Change film series, as well as an Identities program, where students have an opportunity to discuss issues of race, class, gender, sexual orientation, religion, ability, and really sort of have a safer environment to sort of tackle some of these, what people might find riskier discussions. And so those are some examples of some of the programs that we put on. We also advise the Minority Coalition, which is an umbrella group that oversees 15 student organizations that are under the umbrella of MINCO. And so these 15 student organizations include organizations such as the Black Student Union, Asian American Students in Action, VISTA, which is the Latinx student group, QSU, the Queer Student Union, among other student organizations. We see our role as a Davis Center in doing a lot of student development, not just around in terms of their personal identities, but also in terms of leadership development. So, for example, earlier on in September, we hosted a student org boot camp to really help some of these student leaders, like who are in these student leadership positions, to not just feel like they were thrown in, but to build up their skills and capacities to be able to lead their student orgs effectively. So these student organizations, they do a lot of work outside of campus to bring performers, speakers, lecturers, all sorts of programming on campus that really enrich the campus community life, as well as to learn more about the personal concerns and issues and community issues that they have an interest in. So they really do take full ownership of this personal learning experience. We also partner very collaboratively with pretty much everyone here. And I think that's sort of, really does feel like the Williams community as a whole tends to do that. We do coordinate our efforts, both within the classroom as well as outside of the classroom. There's a growing sense that issues of diversity and inclusion don't just pertain to a minority of students, but really to everyone, especially in this increasingly globalized and diverse world. And so we do feel that the Davis Center is for everyone, to engage with everyone and to learn more about issues of diversity and inclusion. So I'll stop there for now, but I'm looking forward to any questions that you might have.
Hello, my name is Mike Evans. I'm the Assistant Director with the Zilkha Center for Environmental Initiatives. And our office thinks about and tries to push forward sustainable. How can we be a more sustainable campus? So we work on sustainable campus operations and also co-curricular student engagement. We focus on waste and recycling, food and water, buildings and transportation, and energy and emissions. And our office is very small. We have three staff in our office, and we really work to partner with departments across campus to support sustainability in their departments, and to nudge the college forward in terms of being more sustainable, and to celebrate the sustainability successes that are happening all over campus. In terms of student engagement, we hire, during the academic year, we hire interns, and last year we hired about 8 student interns. This year it's 20. We hire eco-advisors. That's a skill-building, peer-to-peer, project-oriented group of 6 students this year. We've hired renewable energy interns who are working with a consultant as the college looks, does some exploration, thinking about renewable energy investment. We have communications interns, real food interns, so thinking about sustainable food and how we move that forward on campus. We partner with the Davis Center for the Root first-year orientation program that thinks about the intersection of social justice, sustainability, and identity. And we do a lot of support for other student groups that come forward in various ways. Jen's group, SAC, the Student Athlete Advisory Committee, is really interested in sustainability right now. Last year, worked on piloting recycling bins in locker rooms wasn't there before. And this year is working to pilot recycling on buses. So we have our hands in a lot of things, trying to move things forward and support as we can. Right now, we have a student-led initiative called Winter Blitz that ties into community service, the CLIA, it's community service work, that's weatherization programs for one day, November 12th, in the community that helps people save on heating costs, but also reduces emissions. And we're in the middle of, you're so lucky, we're in the middle of Recycle Mania. It's a 2-week competition against Amherst, because we love to compete against Amherst here, that also our Student Athlete Advisory Committee and our student-led Williams Environmental Council are leading. That's trying to reduce the amount of waste, increase recycling, and have some engagement through social media with the hashtag Talking Trash. So we do a number of those things. We're on committees, all the building. There's a lot of new buildings being put in, so we're working to make sure that those are as sustainable as possible. And what does that mean? We were trying to make sure that's part of the conversation from the beginning. And I'm on I facilitate a waste and recycling working group that tries to bring in people from dining facilities and students to make sure that we're collectively working to reduce the amount of waste on campus. And it's the middle of we're almost halfway through the year of confronting climate change. So we're working with people from across campus to bring speakers in, to have co-curricular events, to really think about what is confronting climate change and how can that be learning from experts that are brought in, but also how can that be action-oriented and impact our community, and with rippling out, of course. So I'm happy to take questions at the end. Thanks for coming.
Okay. Paula Consolini, Center for Learning and Action. As you've already heard, folks are already engaging students in all kinds of experiential learning inside and outside the classroom. In the case of the center, we were established to provide support, to run programming, but also to provide support to other enterprises, on-campus academic departments, as well as the offices you're hearing from here, to do more with experiential learning, learning by doing, helping students get access to opportunities to use what they've already learned and to grow that learning as much as they can. Along the way, of course, they will learn how to collaborate, they learn about organizational dysfunction and how you work through it and deal with it. They learn about what they love to do and hopefully develop a sense of what they want to do going forward so that they can move more in a more focused way to work with enterprises like the Career Center and some of these other offices so they can get more experience. We run approximately 20 programs, a lot of them in local education. Opportunities for students to get course credit occur through the courses during the semester as well as during the winter study. There are over 70 experiential courses here at Williams on an annual basis. Again, some of them during semesters, but many of them opportunities over winter study to get great experience to do work like Teach in New York City, or to work with an up-and-coming refugee advocacy project that's underway here in Berkshire County, because there'll be Syrian refugees coming at the beginning, potentially middle of next year. We have student interest across the board, and as almost a feeder system for the folks at the Career Center, we've identified 12 action areas, opportunities for students to work in activities related to activism. There's a Berkshire Interfaith Organizing Group. We want students to learn how to do more activism and how to get experience with issues like diversity by working with the Davis Center. But when students are interested in moving beyond what they've learned on campus, we're the institution helping them move beyond campus to work with community partners who can provide them those real-life learning opportunities on the front lines and the cutting edge of issues that people are dealing with in this region and beyond. So last year we had a professor who took students to a coffee plantation in Nicaragua to learn about what fair trade coffee work could look like on the front lines. We've had students teaching Spanish and early education work in Dominican Republic last January. This year, some similar students will go to the Dominican Republic to work on developing an English language teaching program in this same small elementary school that's a startup in the northeast corner of the country. We've got programs on campus, winter study opportunities, a course that's offered by the Career Center over winter study for students to do internships pretty much anywhere with alumni and parents, and then other courses that we've got on campus that encourage students to do internships in this region. And again, the refugee work is going to be one of those opportunities for students. That's kind of opportunity that's been developed as a result of some students showing interest in starting a group. This brings me to the other dimension of our work, which is working with student groups that want to get out into the community and do work. Some of them are define themselves as community service groups. So we have Williams Homeless Outreach. We have students working in education, Brayton After School Tutoring. But then we also have other groups that have been focused on identity and diversity on campus that have decided they want to work in the wider community. So with the help and collaboration with the Davis Center, the Black Student Union and the Griffin Society have started to work with an organization that teaches at-risk youth called the Berkshire Farm Center over the border in New York State. Those students are organizing a mentoring program with that organization. Ritmo Latino, a dance group, is organizing a mentoring program where they are taking some of the students from that same organization, bringing them here weekly and teaching them how to do their dance performances and including them in their final performance of the semester on December 3rd. So we've got student groups that are not arguably set up to be community service groups, but are deciding they want to engage in the community, and we're there to help. Again, in collaboration with the other offices you see here. We support the Winter Blitz program, as has been mentioned. We work with the Athletics SAC group and with the leaders in that program to identify opportunities for those students to serve as role models. And the most recent example of that is a little trip we took just this Thursday where leaders from both the women's and the men's hockey team took little book bags and spoke to classrooms of sixth graders up at a remote a rural school, Pownell Elementary School, that it really has a large percentage of kids on free and reduced lunch to help inspire them about thinking about going to college. And the students were peppering them with all kinds of interesting questions about scholarships and how do you afford college. It was pretty impressive for sixth graders, but it was really exciting, and I think our students, they did a fabulous job of showcasing what they already do, of their own journeys, and of inspiring these kids, and also encouraging them to come to some of the games, since the sports teams here perform for free, basically. Yeah. You can go to any competition during the regular season. Arts programming is also often free, and so we encourage the kids to participate in that as well. So there's a whole range, and beyond what I've just described to you, a lot of the work in education, work in social services, and courses that really run across the entire spectrum of our curriculum here. We also have a number of other projects that develop leadership skills. One is the Breakout Trips program, which is an opportunity for students to design and develop and then actually run and come up with a continuous learning model for spring breakout trips that they can take pretty much anywhere in the country or the world. And this year, the proposals already range quite widely, with some students interested in going to work with orphans in Ghana, with a medical trip for clinical work in the Dominican Republic, a trip to New Orleans to work on recovery from Katrina, and then a project in New York City where students will work with some folks in some nonprofit organizations working with at-risk youth, mentoring and the like. And then we also have a new trip that's happening here on campus where students will work in the region. So like the other organizations here, we organize our students to be in a position to learn as much as they possibly can from these experiences, to take what they learn from team sports and to start to apply some of that by working and developing teams projects in the wider community. So they can work through organizations that already exist, student groups, centers on campus, but then we also have a whole swath of students who come to us and say, I want to start something, and we're there for them as well. We may hand them off to some of these other offices to get some help. If they want to do work in environmental sustainability, we'll partner up with the Zilkha Center and help in that regard. But we also are helping other student groups that have gotten started. And one example I'll give you before I close is a group of students called EIFS Out Loud now, but that came to us a year and a half ago saying they were interested in music education outreach. They wanted to inspire a love of music and musical instruments in kids in the community, and we do have at-risk kids in various schools here. So we worked with them. They developed a community concert with the support of the music department. They developed what they called instrument petting zoos and shared those with kids in the region at various schools and after-school programming in order to inspire kids about the love and the possibility of playing instruments. And now, starting this year, they are running language instrument training. They're doing instrument lessons for kids up at the high school. So they're expanding even further beyond that work, but they're working with other operations in the community, including Kids for Harmony, which is an after-school music training program. And the combination of that work and the learning they've done along the way to learn how to partner with outside organizations, to learn how to write up a budget, and to get support and approval for that budget from the college, whether that's the provost office or other offices that can contribute, gives them a sense of the kind of skill sets they can both strengthen, but also be thinking about how they're going to look for other ways to move beyond those developments of skills by working with the Career Center and identifying opportunities out in the wider community beyond the Williams campus. And that work can be done, of course, during winter study, as I mentioned, but also over the summer, where programming opportunities provide funding for students to work with pretty much any approved internship opportunity. We also have, beyond that, another program that we run, Sentinel's Fellowship Program, where even freshmen, rising sophomores, are eligible to propose a project where they would work on some aspect of public policy. It could be working with a frontline organization in education, could be working someplace else around the country, could be in DC where they're working on a particular policy area, but they're going to dig in and learn and deal with the frontline challenges of public policy and get funding for the entire summer to do that work. And we guide them through a proposal process for that as well. So, I've gone on probably long enough. There's so many opportunities, and any of us can share more detail about any of these. But looking forward to working, hopefully, with all of your kids in one form or another. And in the meantime, happy to take your questions.
Jay, can you talk a little bit more about athletic opportunities for non-varsity students?
For non-varsity students in terms of like PE? Okay. Yeah, so we have physical education requirement at the college. So everyone has to take 4 credits, I think, to graduate from the school. And we also have a swimming certification or a swimming test requirement as well. So everyone that comes to school, as I'm sure your children have told you, has to pass the swim test before they move on. And if they aren't able to pass the swim test, then they can take a swim class for PE. But we really feel that it's a lifetime type of learning that every student here at the college has to have. And so I personally teach a PE boot camp class, and my class is full of non-athletes, and it's pretty rigorous, it's pretty intense, but they learn a lot. My class lasts about 6 weeks, and it's twice a week, and they're really, really engaged and probably my most motivated people that I work with, which is fun.
To echo that question, how about club sports, rugby?
Yeah, I don't work personally too much with our club sports, but I do have a colleague that does work with our club sports people. So we have rugby, we have ultimate frisbee, we have sailing, cycling, so pretty much everything you could imagine we have here under some level, either club sports, JV, intramurals, or even varsity. For intramurals, I think we used to have one of those games that you play on the ice. What is it called?
Curling?
No, it's like
Curling?
broom ball, yeah, like stuff like that, like
That's right.
stuff that I'm totally not privy to at all, but we have it all.
You do. And
Which is
even
really
beyond
cool.
that, there's been students, as an example of just how creative students can be. There's some students this summer working with a camp over in North Adams, and they decided they wanted to teach the kids how to play Quidditch. So we got them the
That's really
materials,
cool.
and these students got out the rules and regulations for college
That's
Quidditch,
awesome.
and they played it. So I wouldn't be surprised if you saw students organizing some Quidditch intramurals as well.
do it all.
The creativity is just phenomenal.
great, yeah.
Yeah.
I have a question. You talked about Syrian refugees coming to this part of the country. Are they close by, and what are the opportunities working with these families?
Oh, well, actually, they will be close by. They'll be 30 minutes away in Pittsfield. And the initiative has just been started, and we've already got a group of students that have been excited about doing this work, and they will help with the anticipation of the folks coming. So there's an organization, Jewish Family Services in Western Massachusetts that will be working with the local Berkshire Immigrant Center, where we already have students engaged in translation projects and helping out with the immigrants and refugees that are there. But in addition, this time around, we're getting the students organized, and some of them will be doing this work over winter study for course credit, to gather up the equivalent of a toolkit that will help educate the community about these folks to be a better, more receptive community for them. Because as you probably realize, there's a lot of anxiety and fear that's been out there. And so countering that will take a lot of education work. The students are planning on doing some work developing kind of an ambassador program where people can then teach one another in the wider community about the issues. But they'll also probably be developing a website with other information and working with the organization to determine what advanced work needs to be done to prepare for the kind of help people are going to need. You know, what kind of translation help will be needed. We do have students here that learn Arabic, and the faculty tell me that they would love to have more outlets for these students to learn. We do know that there's a new app for the local newspaper that allows you to translate the entire paper into a number of languages, including Arabic. So we're trying to gather up the potential resources to be better hosts as a region for these people, and the students are really excited. They've gotten a meeting together. 25 people showed up right off the bat, and we expect many more to be interested in helping. So we're excited about that work in particular, and the students are just really looking forward to using their creative talents to help these organizations.
For a winter study, either as an independently organized event or off-campus organized event, is that something that a student does through where? Where does that proposal go? How does that work?
There's a process, there are choices. The question is about winter study, and if someone wanted to do an independent project, what is the process? The process is there's a winter study 99 description and a process that the students would apply. It's all set up online. If a student were to Google winter study on the college's website, you would find all the requirements and all the guidance that a person would need, including some samples of Winter Study 99 proposals. I serve on that committee that works with the registrar and with a series of faculty and students, and what we do is run special sessions, especially for freshmen at the end of spring term, and then in the beginning of fall term. We run information sessions on how you propose a 99, and my office in particular is helpful to students who have an idea, but they need to figure out how they would develop that into something. And if that's something that would be done locally, we can help them identify an organization to work with. We can also coach them on how they could do that work someplace else. In addition, the Career Center has a huge list of alumni and parents, and Don can tell you more about that, where they can, if they want to work on a particular project, they could identify a resource, a person outside this region who might be able to help them, and then they would get a faculty sponsor for that project, propose it, it would have intellectual merit, and they would get permission to do that over winter study and get some financial aid to boot.
Can you do the same thing for an internship?
Yes. In fact, there are these courses. Don can tell you about the course that's offered in their office.
In fact, I strongly encourage students to take it. I consider we have a competitive advantage during those 3.5 weeks because students are receiving credit rather than pay for winter study. And we have alumni, as you can imagine, 28,500 worldwide in extraordinary places, and they're willing to take a Williams student on. So we have a course called Spec 21. About 60 students participated last year. It looks like it's up to 70 this year, 42 opportunities. We also have Spec 19, which is with pairing with doctors, so those students who are on that pre-health track, which is pretty exciting. I would love to even see this program grow beyond what it currently is. I think the way to do that, though, is we'll be partnering with the academic departments and really identifying opportunities that they will sign off on, essentially. So getting students into these micro doses of what's an experience I could have off campus. We have one this year as far as Denmark is the furthest one, but literally globally we could have students out having these types of experiences. So really excited. I'm really looking at the quality of what currently exists versus the quality of what could exist. I want our students at the best of class opportunities out there. So you'll hopefully be seeing some quality adjustments, if not quantity as well in the near term.
Right. There are also other internship courses. One that I think I mentioned earlier, there's teaching in New York City where students can go and work in New York City schools. They're housed at the local YMCA, and there's seminars every week that they experience. So there's that teaching experience. The psychology department has psych internship opportunities as well, again, locally but beyond. And there's a political science course that I co-teach, fieldwork in public affairs and private nonprofits, that allows students to work. We organize opportunities, but they also can find their own internship opportunity, and the intellectual challenges are provided through the readings and the discussions in the class. Sure.
We've got one down here.
We've got one down here too.
My son is volunteering in one of the local high schools. I don't know if there's more than one or if it's just one that you work with. Is there like a formal timetable or a way that you have of assessing how it's going? Do you have points that you stop and ask them, or do you wait for them to come?
No, there's a lot of monitoring and guidance that occurs. And if he's probably at Mount Greylock, is that okay? Then that is the major program that we have in the high schools, and it's a very well established program run by Kotze White, our director of the center, the Williams Center at Mount Greylock. It provides a great deal of guidance, interim opportunities, monitoring by Kotze and her colleagues up at the school, and there are exit interviews, there are interim kind of assessments to determine how things are going. The students meet up periodically. There are various activities that she runs, including a thing called Teacher Feature, where there are meetings where teachers speak to the students about the experience of teaching. So all of our programs are run in such a way that there is guidance, there's orientation at the beginning, there's guidance, there's continuous feedback that comes through the arrangements with the folks that are managing these programs. And then by the end of the term, as I say, there's a kind of a process, a debriefing process at the end to see what people are thinking. And the folks who run the programs are always accessible to the students. So if a student has any kind of a concern, they don't want to hear it when it becomes a full-fledged problem. If somebody's concerned, there's a problem gnawing at them, or sees something, again, I refer to sort of the notion of dysfunction, sees something going wrong, they're really encouraged to communicate that right away with either the person who's running the program, or if they're student leaders. In some cases, our programs have student guides and leaders, or team captains, so to speak, who help coach these students because they've done the work before, help them appreciate some of the challenges and what they need to do to address them. So there's a lot of monitoring, yeah. Other questions? Ready for Rob's question, or does somebody else
have
have?
another one over here.
Was there another one, or?
Yeah, I heard some great feedback from other parents about some of the stuff Don was doing, and one of the things that popped in my mind is, what kind of data are you looking to get about what students are doing out?
A lot more than we currently have. So here's the plan. So currently we do this Kofi survey every other year in May, and we just did that this year. Actually, that data is not as useful to me as the survey we are about to do, which is the 6 months after graduation survey. So this is the national standard that NACE uses, working with institutional research here. We will be in November really taking a much closer look at what our graduates are doing, and that will give us an extraordinary data set from then to understand what are different majors doing, what students haven't we seen, geographics. There's just a whole piece that we're just not clear yet. Graduate school, for example, which graduate school? So we have a lot of anecdotal information. We're going to have really, really solid analytics going forward. This is all going to end in an annual report, so working with the communications office right now. So this spring, we will have on our site a PDF where we can certainly bring to sessions like this, or provide to parents who stop by the center, really the full description of where are the internships. Of these 136 paid, what are the industry breakouts? How have these 5 industry communities that you've mentioned working, which of our students are on to law school versus getting a PhD in physics, or whatever it may be. So we're going to have much more evidence-based and fact-based analytics than we currently have. I'm super excited about this. It gives us a chance to tell our story in a way that we're not currently. I'm a huge believer in Williams outcomes and impact, and I think the impact piece is missing sometimes right now. So looking forward to getting that data. The final piece we'll have with reaccreditation next year is we'll have a 5-year survey done that really will give us what those graduate school numbers look like. So thank you for asking.
And when do these numbers come out? I mean, this is great.
Yeah, so the survey is going to be done, will close in December. Actually, just hired 3 student workers to do a phone-a-thon for the students who don't reply. And then it will be certainly before the trustees meeting in April.
Other questions?
I was just going to ask Mike if you could give us a couple of highlights on the ways in which Williams has actually made some progress in some sustainability practices, just things that have happened in terms of how Williams runs itself and runs the plan, where we can sort of point to progress.
Yeah, great. So beginning of last school year, the presidents and the trustee put forward a new climate action plan to reduce our emissions by 35% over 1990 levels, the first year we had good data for, by 2020. And then to reduce it to that level and buy our carbon offsets to be net zero by the end of 2020. So there's a lot of work and a lot of opportunity there. And we are already making headway in terms of energy conservation on campus. And really thinking about how we can engage students in that process. So it's not just an operations process, it's a student engagement and educational piece in that. We are working on other metrics to make sure that we can reduce waste and have a better baseline than we have, so that we can make some real impact there, rather than just working around the edges to try to get better at composting here and better at recycling there. Mm-hmm. Similarly, sustainable food. We're working to get a goal, a number. There's a national. It's great work happening nationally, thinking about 20% of campus dining would be sustainable or real food by 2020. And so that is a goal that we're shooting for, but we'd like to have our own Williams number that hopefully is going above and beyond that. So thinking about food, waste and recycling, energy is a big one, and emissions is a big one. And as I mentioned before, with all the buildings that are going up on campus, really thinking about that impact, that it's really important to have buildings that are meeting the needs of our faculty, our staff, and our students. And how do we do that in a way that is responsible and that's thinking forward to the next generation? So those are good conversations that we're really digging into in this year of confronting climate change, but also with this goal by 2020, there's some more urgency to that. And it's not just talk, and it's not just saying, sometimes people come to me and say, what does sustainability really mean? And I think we have some better ways to think about that, and as climate change becomes more of a focal point here at Williams and also across the world, we're making some good headway in that direction.
I just love asking these questions. And this is for, is it Dr. Wu?
Angela, you can just call me Angela.
Okay, as an old white guy, I can't make the assumption that all smart people are old white guys. And one of the things I wanted to ask in diversity is how much Williams needs smart, creative, wonderful people from all over the world. And so how much of your work are you looking for, hey, this is how we can convince these smart, creative people to come here, to come to Williams, to give Williams great students of the future? So I just wondered if you wanted to.
Sure. Thanks for that question. So the Davis Center is positioned under the Office of Institutional Diversity and Equity, which has a broad reach on campus and works with practically every office that you can think of in order to look at some of those questions that you're talking about. So that goes to things like looking at faculty hiring and retention practices to see how we can diversify our faculty pool and attract and retain some of these really bright and genius minds that you were talking about from a variety of different backgrounds and disciplines. That's working with admissions and financial aid also to look at what does admissions look like, and I wish there was someone from perhaps admissions here to talk about the admissions process. But looking at the way that Williams recruits systems, and from my understanding, Williams is not only just need blind for domestic students, but also is actually trying to seek out.
It's need aware.
It's need aware.
Yeah.
Okay, but I think that Williams actually has a policy of trying to seek out students who do need aid, and so in terms of our student demographic pool, I think we have a large population of first-generation college students. I think it's like about 40-something% of students here now are students of color.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so in many ways, when students come to Williams College, this might be the most diverse place that they've ever been in. And with that comes a lot of learning through peers and just learning through the experience of being at a residential community space and seeing the way that people's different backgrounds has really impacted not just their lives, but their educational experience up till now. Yes, a lot of it, I mean, with that, whenever you are, again, with such a diverse pool too, there's always going to be adjustment as well as a learning process, an acclimation process. And I think the Davis Center in that sense, as the sort of student-facing branch of the Office of Institutional Diversity and Equity, that's where we see a lot of students, is helping students to understand what diversity really means and how to approach issues of diversity, how to talk about issues of diversity, how to really engage in it in a variety of ways. And that could look from anywhere from, say, students of color coming to my office and finding it really difficult to adjust to being in New England. Or it could also be, a white student who comes to me and says, "Hey, I want to learn more about diversity," or "Hey, I'm afraid of offending someone by saying this, but I really want to learn more about XYZ issue." And so they find our offices an opportunity or a space where they can come and ask their questions. We have a community builders program, and so these are students that we've hired to do peer-to-peer education as well on issues of diversity, and we're training them in that as well. And the next phase of that project is they're going to be going around to either different student groups or different, perhaps even sports teams or their entries to run workshops for their peers as to what are some issues that they feel that their peers are actually really hungry to learn about, but perhaps don't really know how to start to engage in. So there's a lot of different ways that we're approaching diversity on campus and trying to find ways to make sure that these bright minds from such a variety of different life experiences really have an opportunity to flourish and reach their full potentials.
Yeah, can you speak to the issue of career advice? How does this evolve as students journey through the program here? At what stage do you really start to, first of all, I want to know whether it's really mostly student initiated or whether there's institutional support there that encourages them to really think critically about this, and at what stage in their journey here do they really have to get into that?
Well, that's a wonderful question, and thank you. So the question of career advice, a lot of it is student initiative in its current state, and we are looking very quickly to progress the program. So I've been here about 9 months, and the perception of the office was a little bit sleepy and a little bit focused on finance and pre-med, for example, which is part of why we've built out these 5 communities. The piece of starting literally at the moment of matriculation and getting 80% of the first years, and that's really to level the playing field. So it's not just that folks you would expect to show up, it's everyone now is invited in the conversation. In fact, the students who showed up suddenly are attending all of our other events, the job and internship fair. Suddenly there's all these first-year students there because before they weren't invited into the conversation, but now like, oh, we're allowed to come to this, right? We're like, yes, you're allowed to come to this. So we have 150 employers come back to campus each year, and many of them do employer information sessions. I want first and second year students at those information sessions. What better time to start networking with the alums? End of the day, this whole thing is about networking. Family, friends, faculty, alumni, athletics. These are extraordinary networks. I was at Middlebury previously for 17 years. Paula mentioned Quidditch, and so the land of Quidditch up there.
Oh, sure.
And I thought the network there was fairly rabid. It is twofold here. So it is so critical these students start to meet these folks who want to help them. And so Every student has full access to the 28,500 Williams graduates. These alums love to speak and help our students, as do many of the parents. So the process literally starts day one of career development. If a student has no idea what they want to do, they go right into our career discovery program. That's using the MBTI, Strong Interest Inventory. We're about to do a play on a Strengths Quest, which will be looking at specific skills that they can develop. And then as soon as they start to figure out, oh, here's some ideas, they can then start to test those ideas through these winter studies and summer internships that we mentioned. Our office funds 136 summer internships, for example. Many first and second year students can't get a paid summer internship, so we're really trying to bridge that gap. It's a $3,800 summer stipend. It's been a really successful program. It grew, and again, through the support of alums and parents like you. So early and often, get them in, get them exposed, try these internships, build some skills, have the time and space to have some intentionality in this process, work closely with these 5 career coaches, attend I can't tell you how many different sessions we have, go on some of these city treks, really try some of these things on, and I can almost guarantee by the time they're a senior, they'll have a much clearer conception than they will in their first and second year coming into the process. So that said, there's no one size fits all. There is a 4-year roadmap, and we'll be building that out over the next 2 years. I think we'll make significant strides because we already have just in the past 2 months of this semester. So I look forward to working again with your students.
Thank you.
Our
Thank you for
pleasure.
coming.
Thanks for coming.
Thank you.